Simon, your opening statement, please.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. Simply put, the oil sands have come to epitomize unsustainable development around the world, and that is because largely the rules to protect the environment have not kept pace with the massive rate of oil sands development. And that has been acknowledged by the Alberta and federal governments, who are desperately trying to play catch-up to put cumulative limits in place to protect the environment. The cumulative environmental, social, and economic impacts we're witnessing in the oil sands are clear. I just want to give you some context just how fast oil sands development is actually proceeding. In the 1990s, industry came together to produce a task force with the goal of reaching 1 million barrels a day of production in the oil sands by 2020. They achieved that goal in 2004, 16 years ahead of schedule, and the regulators have not been able to keep pace and have been overwhelmed by the rapid pace of development. And as I'll speak to, there are huge gaps in management of this industry. Now, I only have 3 minutes. It would probably take 3 days to discuss the litany of environmental problems associated with the oil sands, but I just want to hit some of the highlights. Greenhouse gas pollution from the oil sands is proposed to triple by 2017. Single-handedly, it is like virtually single-handedly, this is going to enable us not to meet our international obligations on climate change. The oil sands over the next decade are responsible for over half of Canada's increase in emissions during that period. If the oil sands were a country, they'd be somewhere between New Zealand and Denmark and have more total emissions than dozens of countries around the world. The community of Fort Chipewyan, downstream of the oil sands, has raised concerns for years about rare and disproportionate amount of cancers. The cause of these cancers are unknown, but there's been a real sluggish response in terms of doing the studies to determine the root of this problem. That work still has not been done. We've leased 65,000 square kilometres of land for oil sands development with no environmental assessment. That's an area twice the size of Vancouver Island, and now we're seeing development proceeding. We've seen woodland caribou populations and endangered species in Canada drop by 65% in the past 16 years, largely as a result of oil sands development. And in 40 years, we've only seen 1 square kilometre of land reclaimed, certified as reclaimed, in the oil sands region, while the mines have grown to 500 square kilometres. The Athabasca River does not have a protective limit to protect it from the oil sands industry. During winter, when it's in the so-called red zone and the river is being damaged, companies are still allowed to withdraw water from the river. And a decision to protect the river is being pushed back to 2011. Now, most observers agree there are significant environmental issues that have not been dealt with in the oil sands. Unfortunately, industry and government share the speaking notes on this, but you only have to look at the range of independent opinion out there to say we have a serious problem. Just last week, PricewaterhouseCoopers, who's hardly renowned for their environmental radicalism, under commission from the Alberta government, a report was released that said, without immediate action, the gap between oil sands development and regional environmental management will continue to widen. Now, clearly, if the financial turmoil is causing some companies to pause on their expansions, but this is a relative term. We're talking about $6 billion of expansion for Suncor, for instance, instead of $9 billion of expansion. Opposition is growing. It's not just environmental. It's quite interesting being at oil sands hearing and standing up beside the city of Fort McMurray opposing projects concerned about the pace of scale development. Peter Lougheed, our ex-Conservative Premier of Alberta, calls oil sands development, as it is currently proceeding, a major wrong. A majority of Albertans support a pause on oil sands development approvals until we get these issues under control. And even with that pause, we'd still see a doubling of oil sands production. It's a logical decision that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Thank you, Simon.